All right, welcome back to episode 3, I think is what it is, of building Nutshell. Now, if you recall, the plans for the transoms are to be made out of 3/4 inch hardwood plywood. And I don't really want to make anything out of plywood. I have a ton of spruce lying around, and so I'm going to make it out of spruce. This is rough sawn 2x stock. So I'm going to be resawing this 2x stock into 7/8 thick planks, which then we'll glue together and then finish milling it down to the final 3/4 inch boards for the transoms. Got a new fresh blade in the table saw, or in the bandsaw rather. So let's see how it goes. Alright, so I took 3 boards and ripped them. Now, not all of this is going to be usable material. We have some knots. Not so much concerned about the spalding, but we do have some bug holes and things like that. So, the transoms only have to be, you guys can see here, the one is 19 by 23. And the stern is 18 by 41. So I don't have to use all of this. And I can cut around, lap the boards together. What I'm thinking is I'm gonna run them all through the planer first, and then see what parts are usable and what parts aren't. All right, I got my little Delta 12-inch portable planer set up here. We're going to plane these boards down to a little above 3/4 inch. Right now we are sitting at about 7/8. I have all that stack. Look how clean that floor is. This Delta planer is about 30 years old, and it doesn't have a vacuum port. All the chips just get fed out under here. I'm sure there's an adapter, but I never got one. So all of this will get piled up with wood chips, but that's okay. We will use them for chicken bedding. But I'm curious, out of all these 6 boards, how much we're gonna have piled up.
As fast as you can, crafted with care by the shore's golden sand. Hoist up the sail, time to set to the sea. Build me a boat, my heart longs to be free. Hammer the nails, planks tight and true. We'll weather the storm under skies clear and blue. Hoist up the sail, time to set to the sea. Build me a boat, my heart longs to be free.
Let me explain a little bit about what I'm doing and why you see me passing one board through multiple times and another board only through once. Also what I'm doing with the adjustment knob. That adjustment knob, if you crank it clockwise, lowers the table and makes a deeper cut and produces a thinner board. My ultimate goal at this stage is to get all of the boards substantially similar thickness. And I say substantially, I don't need them to be the exact finish or the finished thickness, because I would like to be able to pass all the boards through one final time, all at the same thickness, so that I know they're identical. But when I resawed the boards, some of them came out a little thicker than others. So I'm taking the thicker ones, passing them through down to something that's close to that one board sitting in the background. And I will keep doing that with all the boards until they're all pretty much the same thickness. And then I'll start working them consecutively down, and you'll see me start passing all the boards through one after the other. Well, that was just from the first few passes. Just to get everything down to 7/8 or just a touch under. That was what I wanted to originally start with. As you can see, my lines didn't go exactly smooth on the resaw. That's all right, we still have plenty of material to work with. And but everything is either down to 7/8 or a little less, so that's a good starting point. So now I can start running these boards through one after the other and ensure that they all end up the exact same thickness. All right, so normally when you're building a boat, you need to take the plans, the drawings, and loft them. Lofting them is taking the scale drawings on a board or a piece of paper and then translating them to full size scale. And in fact, I did it for a previous boat that I was going to build and then ended up scrapping. I don't have to do that with this boat. The plans that I purchased came pre-lofted. So this is essentially the result that you would get from lofting a boat. I don't need to do it myself. That's great. It takes a step out of the process. And this will give me the full scale dimensions of the transom, both the bow transom and the stern transom. And it also gives you other notes. It tells you that you want to bevel at a 49-degree angle right here. And the bottom of this stern transom is beveled at a 23-degree angle. The bevel is 25 degrees here, 22 degrees here, and 16 degrees here. So, but I have the stern transom dimensions and I have the bow transom dimensions. So now I'm going to get the overall length and height, so I know how much material I need to glue together to make a board so I can cut this out of. And the same with the stern transom. So that's what I'm going to do now. 18 high by 40 wide, 18 high by 22 wide. Those will be the boards that I need to make. So let's go find some good sections. Now, looking at this board in particular, and since this is only yay wide, obviously I'm only going to use about this much of it. It does have some fairly deep holes. Like it might even be a bullet hole or something that dug into the bark. Maybe it's a wormhole, but these are definitely worm and insect holes. As you saw when I was planing, I dropped the board and it split right at the knot. That's why knots are weak. You don't use knots if you can avoid them. Sometimes when they're right in the middle of the board and it's a big board, it's okay to use, but it's always a weak point. So I'm probably going to avoid this because I have plenty of material. There's no sense in messing around with knots. So that leaves this smaller section that does have some spalding. Spalding is when the wood begins to rot. I love the look of it. And if you check out one of my other videos, I have a table that I made, or a countertop that I made, all with spalded maple. But so I have a section between here and here that I can use. All right, board is glued up. Now it's just time to clean it up. All right, the audio in the rest of this video was a little screwed up. I had a TV show playing in the background, as well as a bunch of other machines going, and you can't really hear me when I'm talking about what I'm doing. So I will just dub over with this little edit. But essentially, I just need to chisel off the excess glue on both sides of the board before I finish planing it down to its final thickness. In order to prevent the board from moving while I'm planing it, I've cut up a bunch of scrap blocks that are going to be screwed down to the table. They are thinner than the finished board, so then I don't have to worry about anything sitting on top of the surface while I'm planing it down. I'm also going to lock the table down so it doesn't roll around while I'm planing as well. I take a ruler, or any flat edge will work, just to see how flat the board is before I begin. You can see from a little bit of the light coming through that it's not exactly flat and smooth. So then I'll take the plane and start working the board down so that everything is even across. The issue I'll eventually run into is that second board, the grain is the opposite direction of the rest of the boards, which I didn't take into account when I was gluing them up. But that prevented me from really planing it down properly with the plane as I started gouging out the boards. I'll eventually turn around and plane it from the other direction, but because then it's opposite of the rest of the boards, I will eventually switch over to a orbital sander just to smooth everything out. Oh my God, I haven't been recording any of this. So what I'm doing now is taking measurements off of the drawing and transferring them onto the board so that I get the right shape, size, and dimensions for the bow transom. I am taking a stick to try to see if I can mark a curve at the top of the bow transom, as you can see on the drawing there. And I'll struggle with this for a bit, and eventually I'll get a second pair of hands. That'll work. Thank you. Now that I have the radius marked, I will just spend the rest of my time taking measurements from the drawings and transferring them onto the board, taking account of every angle and every point, and hopefully it will be correct. Okay, so an indiscrepancy I noticed. These marks are the inside, right, outside face of transom, okay? Right, that's the outside face. Outside face of bow transom. Yep. So that's the outside face. So I have to cut the bevel, or I mean, I don't have to cut the bevel, but I got to cut it at least this wide, or this is the line that I have to cut it on. I'm not cutting the bevel yet, but that's the bevel. So this is the inside dimension, and I need the inside dimension of both of these transoms. So it's a good thing I didn't cut the other one out, because I got to remark it now for this size.
Down by the harbor, we gather round, timber and tools, we cue to sound, a boat to build for journeys afar.
All right, so I am going to try to drive some nails and hold this on its mark.
Cut the planks edge 'em.
We'll see. I'm going to estimate
Raise the frame
where the nail should sit.
Hammer and nails a rhythm to keep.
Down.
Dreams of the sea and the work so deep. Build me a boat sturdy and true.
I'm going to say that's close enough for government work.
Wind in the sails, heart's delight. With friends and faith, sail through the night.
Move it in a touch. It's just going to move.
Shave the beams smooth and clear. Wisdom passed down from yesteryear. Bend the bow to greet the waves. A vessel strong the ocean craves. Lash the ropes, tie 'em tight. Bow to stern, a perfect sight. Push her down the seaside shore. Hear the sea begin to roar. Salt and spray.
All right. Well, now that I'm reading the dimensions correctly on the lofting sheet, I am short here. So, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to add a piece. I'll dowel it, because this is going to be beveled. This is going to be beveled at 35 degrees. So it's just a little small little nothing that I'm going to need. So I'm going to do a clean cut on this. I'll add a block. I'll dowel it. And then when I cut this out, it's just going to be a little piece. It's basically a filler piece at this point. So I'll do that because I don't want to remake this whole board. All right. So since I am off a touch with these new dimensions, I basically just need this little wedge here. That's all I need. It's that little wedge there. So what I'm going to do is, I was originally going to dowel this, but it's so minute, I don't think I need to. I've got end grain here, end grain here. This is actually the same board, just a little further down because I cut off some. And I'm going to glue and clamp and then let it dry. And we'll see how it goes. The glue joint should be pretty solid. I'm gonna make sure there's no possibility of voids. I'm using a lot more glue than I need to, but I'd rather have too much squeeze out than not enough between the boards.
And the way this stuff expands, being on end grain, I'm confident that it's just going to soak in to the ends, to the end grain, and it's going to be beautiful. Move this down a touch. There we go. Let's see, it looks planed out at least enough. It's a little hanging a little low underneath, but that's okay. Just clean it up. And again, it's just that little freaking corner. All right, I'll let this dry.
So, that looks pretty good. It's just a very small sliver that I actually needed this. So, I'm happy with the results. Now we'll get the boards cut out. All right, so I have cut out the transoms, not exactly to the line. I left them hang over a little bit. This is all going to be faired out and shaped as we build, but I have an issue. This little piece popped off. So what I'm going to do is attach this with some dowel pins. Most of this is going to get planed off in the beveling. Remember, we have, this is the inside or the outside dimension, this line here, and this is the inside dimension. So as the planks attach, and it'll be easier to see as I do it, but as the planks attach, they'll be coming at from an angle, and this will need to be beveled at certain degrees. So most of this is beveling, much like the corner piece that I added. I'm going to reattach this, and most of it's going to get shaved to non-existence. But just so I have the dimensions right, I'm going to reattach this, and we'll do that real quick.
Let the boat fly, two adventures just begin. Build a wood boat strong to brave the waves and the storm. Through storm and calm, we'll sail the sea so long. Hoist the sails high that catch the wild wind, let the bow fly, two adventures just begin. Build the wood boat strong to brave the waves and song. Through storm and calm, we'll sail the sea so long.
All right, we got the bow transom and stern transom cut out. It was not without issues. They say the difference between a bad woodworker and a good woodworker is that a good one can recover from their mistakes. The next episode, we will be attaching the transoms to this frame that we built in episode 1, as well as installing the rest of the temporary frame so we can get started on the planking. So if this at all interests you, don't forget to like and subscribe and tell a friend.
Down by the harbor, we gather round. Timber and tools,
Well, hi.
cue to sound.
Morning.
A boat to build
Morning.
for journeys afar. Crafted by hand.
You guys don't even care about me.
Stars.